Okay. Okay. Ooh.
Siona God, uh, well, we'd like to welcome you to the Durbin Feeling Language Center this morning. We're glad that you're here and hope you're enjoying the holiday. We're going to do our next Cherokee Talks event. It's with Sarah Oosahwee. She's going to talk about, how do you begin your journey to learn Cherokee. So Sarah is from Tahlequah, and she is Cherokee, Mandan, Hidatsa, and Arikara. Am I pronouncing that right? Arikara. That's it. Sorry about that. She graduated from the University of Oklahoma and earned her MS in Cultural Resource Management from Central Washington University. She completed the Cherokee Language Master Apprentice Program in the spring of 2022, where she currently works to help other second language learners in their journey. So now I'd like to welcome Sarah Oosahwee to the stage.
Siona God. Welcome to Cherokee Talks, my talk on beginning your journey to speak Cherokee. Galialik, Nigad, Jijedo, Aseskin, Dohiyu, Jiska. Welcome. I'm very grateful you guys are here, but I'm very scared, but we're going to do this together, so it's all good. First, a little bit about me. Ostige Dawado, Sarah Oosahwee Yone Gunt, Dalik Awadena, Awatessa Gineo, Diga Gigayelige Meli Ale Adawi Dundo. See. Tal Anichu Dagika Adawi Ale Wahali Dudo, Nug Noji Ojathanessa, Sidelta Danita Dundo, Adawi Dudoa, Eji Giathadi, or Julosa, or see. Eji, yeah, Julataditha Julosa. See. Jalik Ayethli Dagila Westane, Seskin, or see. Faos Jijalagi Jiwoniski, Aseskin, Jalagiani Woniski, Gaji Stalisko, Gailey. CEO, my name's Sarah. I'm from Tahlequah. I grew up in Tahlequah. I was born and raised. My parents are Mary and Harry. I have two boys, Ottawa and Wahali. I am one of four siblings. My sisters, Danita and Sidelta, and my brother, his name was Adam. I currently work at the Master Apprentice Program. I help the speakers. I don't speak great Cherokee yet, or good Cherokee, but I am trying to learn, and it's a lifelong journey. So today I'm hoping to help you guys find ways to start learning if you haven't, and hopefully talk about some of the resources that we have and go over some 5 topics that I don't know if a lot of, when you learn, you're not just learning the language, you're not just learning words, you're learning a way to think, you're learning a way to see the world differently, and it's a hard language to learn, but it's really rewarding. So I'm hoping that some of these things will be helpful to you guys. My dad is a speaker. You guys might know him. His name's Harry Oosahwee. One thing he always talks about is the regret that he has not sharing the language with us. And we always tell him, don't regret that, because you and Mom, you pushed us towards our education, and it wasn't our time to learn. And as Cherokees, I think we have this huge guilt about not learning our language, but sometimes it's just not our time yet. And so we have to let that go and know that our time is coming, and make it your time now, because we need all hands on deck. I really think that we talk about preservation and revitalization, but I think it almost gives a disservice to people like my dad and Durbin, because they gave their lives to this language. And so we need to help continue the language. And so if you're interested, try. That's all we ask, is just to try. So the first thing I want to talk about is balance. Balance is everything. We talk about grammar. Grammar is very important, but you also have to know that there's limitations to that. And we want you to be driven when you learn the language, but also make sure that you're not aggressive learning the language. We have some people that they come in and they're very aggressive learning. They go to a speaker and they say, how do I say this? Well, then how do I say that? Then what's this? And what's that? And they don't take the time to listen and to just hear what's being said. But we also need to have that passion. So finding that balance between being aggressive and being driven is very important. And also being humble, but also have pride in what you're doing. Because your ego is going to take a hit. Because this is very, very difficult. I mean, every day you're going to get corrected, but it's not corrected. And we'll talk about that in a second. But yes, as we go along through the slides, this is from my perspective as a second language learner. I'm not representing all second language learners, but I'm hoping this is coming from my heart and soul, all this information and all these things that I hope that you guys can, hopefully it'll help you along the way. So this first slide, this is a great place to start if you don't know where to start. It's our language.cherokee.org. It's our language department. These are all free. You can start at the Cherokee Language Classes tab, and that is a great place. You learn about our community classes that are free, and then you can learn about the online classes that are also free. And if you work, there are many different days and times that you can find that will fit your schedule. Ed Fields teaches them. He is an amazing teacher. He is a first language speaker. You get an opportunity to hear stories from his past, which I think is really exciting and helpful as you go along, because it's almost like an uncle or a grandpa teaching you, because he's willing to share his knowledge and his history and examples of his life. And I think that's just as important when you're learning the language, to also learn about the culture, and because it's a perspective. It's about the perspectives of the language. And so on that tab, that's where you find that information. Fonts and keyboards. A lot of us like to text. If you don't know, you have it already in your phone. Most of them have it installed. You just have to figure out how to apply it. And so you can go on this page, and you can find free downloads for your computers, your phones if you don't somehow have it, and then it'll walk you through how to install it too, which is super fun, because then you can start texting in Cherokee, and so that's kind of exciting. We also have the language program tab, and that's where you can find more about the Cherokee Language Master Apprentice Program. That's the program I work in. It's a 2-year adult apprentice program where adults, 40 hours a week, they're immersed in the language. I'm in the first 6 months. Every 6 months we get a new cohort, and so they will switch into the rooms that we have over here on the side. But that's where you learn more about that, and there's programs for the infants all the way up to adults. So check that out if you want to learn more. And then there's also a posters tab, which I don't know if we might have examples. I know that some of the classrooms have it, but they're beautiful pictures. If you're interested in birds, there's a ton of different pictures of birds, and then it breaks it down into the English name and then the syllabary. So if you're interested in birds, animals, there's all types of topics on there, and these are all free, so take advantage. The learning materials page, this is where I would recommend starting. The Cherokee Reader is a great resource. I love the See, Say, and Write textbook. That's how I learned how to read it and write it. The community classes used to use that textbook. It breaks down the syllabary, but it also gives you a word. And I just learn how you learn best. That's what I say right now, is just however you can learn it. And so this is a great place to start with the syllabary charts. There's also the flashcards. I think on page 2, do you guys remember when we were learning, the alphabet, A, B, C's, D's? Well, on the next page, there's a breakdown, and you can learn the syllabary. And it shows you exactly like arrows, how to write it, because I think that's really helpful, because we all see these different syllabary charts, and you got to remember there's different fonts. So you can see one, and you start learning how to write it, and then you go to the next syllabary chart, and it's written differently. And so you're like, well, I thought that was a eh, but it's an e. So just remember that not all syllabary charts share the same fonts. So my other one piece of advice is if you don't know where to start, I think it was helpful to learn the syllabary, because when you're listening to a speaker, it's really hard to get your ears to train. Sometimes they say ga, but it's like, did you say ga or ga? And so it's easy to write the syllabary if you have it. So then you go back and because if you're like me, my English is terrible writing. So when I see the syllabary, I know it's a ga, and it's not going to be was that an A that I wrote or a U? So it's really nice to cement my words in the syllabary. And also that's just another way to reinforce your language, because I'm a very visual learner. I have to see it. I have to see it written. And I know not all learners like to write it out. They want to hear it first. But for me, I need to see it. So I definitely would, I think we have videos on how to go through learning how to read the chart, but it's super easy once you figure out the little system, because we've got 6 vowels. English has 5 vowels. And then you just take a consonant and you just go through there, like that top row, e, o, u, and then you take the consonant on the next row down, ga, ka, ge, ke, gi, ki, go, ko, gu, ku, ga, ka. So just know that K sound can follow through. But once you figure that out, you guys, it's a lot of fun. So I hope you guys do start learning the syllabary if you haven't. So the number one, this is not in order, but I just kind of want to touch on some of these points that I think would be helpful for you guys, is when it comes to listening, speakers, don't take it for granted if you have speakers in your family or if you have access to speakers. If they want to just talk to you in Cherokee, and you just let them go, because you get that opportunity to hear that. And if you have 2 speakers speaking together, just drop everything you have and just listen, because we have these opportunities in our classroom to have 2 speakers, and we know that time is, it's not dwindling, but it is. And so if you have that opportunity, listen. And whatever they want to talk about, just listen to them. You don't even have to feel like you can contribute, just listen, because I think a lot of them, they need to speak their words, and they need to just share their language. And every time a speaker shares their language, they're sharing a piece of their family with them. This has been, my dad's grandparents spoke this, and so he learned that from his grandparents. It's a family connection, and if they're willing to share that language with you, that's just, I feel honored when they take their time. So don't take it for granted. And if you don't have a speaker in your family, a great place to listen to is Dennis Six Killers radio show. You can find it on Spotify and SoundClouds. I think it's called Cherokee Voices, Cherokee Sounds. But I love it. You can listen to, he interviews other speakers, he tells stories, he plays music in the language, and it's a really great resource. We talk about how as second language learners, we're like kindergartners and first graders and preschoolers. And so this radio show is like collegiate level compared to that, because I even listen and I'm just like, I don't know half of these words, but it's getting my ears listening to the sounds and the cadence and the tones, and it's a really good resource. And even just play it in the background, even if you don't understand what's happening, your brain is processing those sounds and the flow. So definitely check out his show. And then we talk about, try to mimic, not mock, because you can learn you can learn the words, you can learn sentences, but if you don't have that, it sounds really choppy. And we can learn grammar, and we can learn how to conjugate verbs, but if we don't have that cadence and flow that the speakers have, it just still doesn't sound right. So that's part of it, is learning how the language flows. I say mimic, not mock. Sometimes I almost come across mocking my dad, it sounds like, but I want to sound like him. And so there's a fine line, but yeah, it's helpful to listen, because you want that. Like, he'll say, how does he say? When you ask, what kill can nest? I forgot the word, but Godot Hadisko, if you can. Ellie Woosk, he'll say Ellie Woosk, and so I'll go Ellie Woosk, but most people will just say Ellie Woosk, so it's got that like tone. So at first I was mocking, but now I say it with confidence, because that's how he says it, and I feel feel like I'm slowly starting to sound a little less choppy, and maybe I'm going up to a first grader and a second grader. So it's exciting. It's a good thing. So, perspectives. One of my coworkers gets really annoyed when I say this. Recognize your ethnocentric views. And I don't mean it to come across like in a bad way, but we come in learning a language from our English thinking perspectives. And sometimes we show our biases and judgment, and we don't realize we're doing that to the language because we're coming in saying, well, like brushing your teeth, Deijin doka, Deijin nuggle, it means I'm cleaning my teeth. And in my mind, I'm like, well, technically I brush my teeth. Am I cleaning it? I'm cleaning it, but I'm brushing my teeth. So I wonder if I can brush my hair. Is it the same word? Why don't we use the word for brushing your hair for brushing your teeth? Because you're brushing. But then that's a whole nother word for just specifically brushing your hair. And so this is very descriptive language. And so you start going down that path like, well, why don't they say it this way? Or why can't we? And sometimes we just got to shut that down and take the word for what it is and take the action for what it is, and try not to put a translation on it sometimes, because that can be a hindrance. We were learning about going to, I'm leaving, I'm going, I've arrived. And all of those, I still have such a mental block because I try to put that yonic, or that English concept on that. And it's really difficult because I go through and I'm just like, well, I don't get it now, because did I arrive? I'm here. I left somewhere, but I was going somewhere, and it snowballs. So sometimes it's just better just to take a step back and take it for what it is. We also need to reframe how we think. A situation that I always go to is, as learners, we'll spend like 10 minutes on a sentence, trying to create a sentence. And we're just like, okay, so the big black bear climbed up the tree and ate a huckleberry, and so we come up with this huge thing, and we spend time on it, and we go to a speaker, and then they say, yeah, that looks good, but you could just say this, and they give us like a short word. And so sometimes it's like, oh, that's good to know, because I've spent 10 minutes creating this huge long sentence, and like it's not from their perspective, because it's like, or you could just say this, and it's like, yes. Or other times we think so hard, and they just say, you could say that, but it's already implied, like in the sentence, like the apple's hanging from the tree. We already know the apple's hanging in the tree. You can just say the apple up there. Like there's a lot of implication that we try to place in our sentences, and it's already in there. So sometimes it's better to ask, Gado Hadisko, and that's, how would you say? Because I don't want to put words into their mouths and sentences into their mouth. I want to learn their perspective. So, or another even greater thing is to mimic, or to do the action. So I was trying to ask about basketball. And, I asked my dad, I said, de oost, what? And so I was, mimicking shooting a ball, because I didn't want that, put that in the word, like, how do you say shooting a ball? Like, I wanted to hear what he was going to tell me. I don't want to ask him, like, how would I say I shot the ball and I missed? Like, I want to know what he would say if he saw that happening. And so that's one way that we can reframe the way we think. Another way is to reframe how we learn. Yes, like I said earlier, learn how you learn, but also maybe take this time to step away. Let's say you want to learn how to make baskets because you've never learned it. Learn the whole process, learn the language and the process of making it. This program has been amazing because I wanted to make little videos. And so they were like, go for it, do it. And so I was able to learn how to do videos, making puppets, and just having fun with the language. But I've learned a lot of skills along the way to help me. And so I'm hoping that you all have specialties, or you have something that you want to learn, and that you learn those areas of interest in the language and learn it in that perspective. Because you're already learning one way, so why not learn it from a Cherokee perspective? So if you have a chance to talk to a speaker, maybe they know how to make quilts, and you really want to learn how to make quilts. Learn it from their perspective, because then you're doing double the work. And that sounds like an amazing opportunity, so take it. And then modify. Like I said, ego and your mindset, you got to modify the way we think, modify the way we view things, because it's not, you're going to get corrected, like I said, a lot. You'll learn one way to say a word, and then you're going to learn, you go to try to use it in front of another speaker, and they'll correct you, because they don't say it that way. But that's not a bad thing. That is, at first I was like, oh gosh, am I ever going to learn this language? Because, I feel pretty confident with this word. I try to go use it, and then they're like, no, you should say it this way. And it's not us being corrected, it's them sharing their perspective with us. So what I like to do is I like to take a notebook and write it down, and then I'll write who wrote it, and because I want to know who gave me that word and their differences. And so it's not being corrected, but it's having another way people share the language with you. So modify the way you view it, because it can get, if you just keep thinking that I'm not learning anything, I'm not getting this is frustrating, it can get you down pretty quick. So change the way you see things. And then we have grammar. I love grammar, but there are cultural limitations. And so I say this, and again, don't take this for granted, because we are second language learners using grammar to learn Cherokee. But these speakers are the ones that they basically have their PhDs. So you have to proceed with caution, because you have this viewpoint that we're trying to fit Cherokee in. And yes, there's rules, but there's exception to those rules. These speakers this is their language. And so I once heard a speaker say, I really want to learn the grammar. I really want to read something and learn how to say it in that grammatical form. And I just wanted to cry, because I was like, no, this is your language. You should not be wanting to put your grammar and change the way you see it and you use these words, because you were taught these words from your family. So it kind of broke my heart, because it's like, no, the grammar is great. We're going to need it one day. We're going to probably end up accidentally standardizing the language because of the grammar. But it's not time yet, because we have speakers and we still have that opportunity to learn from them. And so it's really helpful as a second language learner, because there are tips and there are tricks and there are certain patterns in there. But I don't want us to limit that, because it is useful, but like I said, we don't want to standardize it yet. And so just be careful how you go about it. And it's really culturally, it's difficult when you don't ever want to correct a speaker. And you don't want to say, well, actually, you should say G if it's aya. And it's, and I think it's just better. Let's take it as what they say, because that is their first language. And so just remember that, because like I said, grammar is super helpful for us second language learners, but there's a line between, where we want to, how far we should push it. So, and then we have self-care. So be kind to yourself, because this is a heavy language to learn. I don't know if you guys saw that bell out there. There's a bell that they ring at 8 o'clock every morning when school starts. But if we hear it during the day, they ring it for when a speaker passes. So we all exit the building and we try to go pay our respects to that speaker. And they will ring it for every year that speaker was alive. And that is such a powerful sound. And it's not only like the families that we're feeling the loss for, also the language, the culture. I know that bell's gonna ring one day for my family. So, it's not a burden to learn this language, it's an honor. And that's what we remember. Because this is a perspective, that wisdom that we've lost, those stories, those humors, because we all know those speakers are funny. It can hurt, and it can be a heavy feeling when you hear that bell. But then we remember that we are here, we have the chance to learn it. And so Sometimes it feels like it is just us alone. But then I look out and I see all the other learners, and they feel that too. And what's happening in some of these rooms is incredible because these guys are giving it all. They're trying, and I feel like, yes, there is hope. And you don't have to learn everything at once. And that's another thing. It's a team effort. And so we've got one guy he's really interested in the Bible, so we go to him when we've got Bible stuff. When my friend, he's an amazing sewer. I will ask him if I need to know a question about sewing. So we all have our areas of interest. So just focus on what you know and what you are interested in and learn that language because you may be the expert that we want to go to one day. And so burnout is real because we feel that pressure to learn this language. And we go. And just know that focus on the general stuff first. If you want to learn weather, learn how to say it's cloudy instead of it's going to be cloudy in 5 days. Like, learn the basics first before you jump into the real specifics because you want to learn how to speak first. And so learn those. Don't think that if you don't know it and someone teaches you that you should know it right away. So just be honest and just say, I forgot. Awakale, I forgot. Or Fa you go league, I don't know. And just use what you can. But definitely start off with general versus specific. And this is a lifelong journey, so use whatever you know. I got to teach a community class, and I loved it. And these guys were so excited and so passionate, and it felt really good to be able to share what I know, because I feel like I don't know a lot, but when I was able to teach them, I realized I knew more than I did. But I told them, I said, even though you don't know it, like I said, say, "Fa you want," or just "Fa si," not yet. Use what you know because you're still saying the language, you're still using the language, you're still getting across that you're trying. And I think that's really important, is just, you never know who's listening. And it doesn't matter, I had one lady in there that said, I'm not gonna get it, I don't know it, it's just too hard. And she ended up passing away this past summer. And I wanted her to know, and thankfully I was able to tell her, I said, just use what you got. And you don't know, because you could have, Sally Sue listening to you, and she's like, oh, well, she can do it. I can do it. What are you doing? And she starts asking questions, and you don't know the ripple effects of just using CO and how you're affecting other people. And we still have people that don't realize that we exist still. So getting out there using the language, it's a really powerful thing just to say what you know. So even if you feel like you're too old to learn it, or even if you feel like I've been trying to learn this for 20 years and nothing's sticking, just use it. Use what you got. And so I want to leave you with just respect. Respect who you are. I know a lot of us, even me, I'm half Cherokee, but I'm also Mandan, Hidatsa, and Arikara. And to some people, I might not be enough Cherokee. And I might not look Cherokee. And I know my son, I've got 2 boys that are adopted. One of them is Cherokee, and he's got the curliest, reddest hair. He's got freckles, blue eyes, and he's gonna come into that problem where people are gonna tell him he's not Cherokee enough. And to me, it's not about how you look, it's about how you carry yourself and how you treat others. And that's what I feel like being Cherokee is, because none of us will ever look Cherokee enough. I mean, it doesn't matter what we look like, it matters how we treat people. And this is a team effort. This is a family effort. When you start learning Cherokee, you're going to meet a lot of great people. I mean, I've met some amazing learners, and they are just, you see that close-knit connection, and they encourage each other, and they want each other to learn. And so it's really a powerful thing. But also remember where you come from. And like I said, not just your Cherokee side, be proud of who else you are. I am also Norwegian, French Canadian, I'm a little bit of German, and I'm proud of that too. And I want to recognize that as well, because I mean, they're my ancestors too, so I want to try to honor them however I can. So I don't try to just focus on Cherokee. I try to learn about my other family, and because that's being Native is learning about all our families. So I'm proud of my ancestors on those sides too. And respect speakers in their time, because there is a lot of historical trauma in the language, and a lot of them are told not to use it, and so they're willing to share it with us. And so just be mindful of the time that they're giving you. Be respectful, listen, and just know that like some of them are burnt out because they have been giving this language for years and years and years, and it's hard because I've seen them give, and they teach the same words over and over and over again, and they're still willing to share. And so just be mindful of that. And then respect other learners. It's hard because you see other people picking up the language, and it's almost, you've got to fight that jealousy almost, because we always talk about the crabs in the bucket mentality, where someone's doing good, and you just, well, why can't I do it? Or why, like, God, they're getting all these opportunities, and it's not about that. We need to be happy, and we need to be, like, if someone can, I always say that, like, if you know more Cherokee than me and I can help you, I love it. Like, learn more than me, go. Whatever I can do to make you a better learner than I am, that's my goal. And so I want to see people be successful. I want to see them know more than I do. Because, like I said, it's a team effort, and we need all hands on deck. And so however we can help you, however I can help you, I'm willing to help you guys. And I think that's how a lot of us learners are. And I love seeing this. Working in CLMAP, we really are creating this strong team base. And I love this job. I love learning and sharing what I know with other learners. And so it's exciting to see what we're seeing now. And so whatever we can do to help, just, like I said, reach out. And again, humility. Your ego takes a beating, and you sometimes feel like, what am I doing? But then you try to use it, and you realize that, like, oh, I do know more than I do. It's good. And, I've got degrees, but they don't mean anything here. Because I am just a beginner, and I love that. And I love feeling that, like, you know what, we're all equal. We're all on the same level. We're all learning. You go and learn about, car stuff, because I know nothing about car stuff, but I know that, like, I want you to go learn about that stuff. So if I know, I can come to you and ask you that stuff. And so but be proud of yourselves, because it's a huge undertaking, and it's hard, and it's difficult, but I think, like I said, whatever you can do, however you can learn the language, just do it. So, do you guys have any questions or anything? All right then, G-squat. I'm done. Oh, yes. That's a good question. I don't think we have any happening right now. Roy would be a great person to answer that. October. Awesome. And I think it's 14 areas, so 14 communities, or, yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 Mm-hmm. Yes, yes. And that's the really cool thing about learning this language is learning the perspectives behind why we call things the way they call things. And it's like we always use the word for dik lane, which is car, but it means like big eyes. And then dolel is a wagon, but people also use that for cars because back in the day it was a wagon. And so, and then automobile, that's the other one people actually use. But it's how the speakers see it, and that's why it's so descriptive. And your mindset will change because, I mean, like this here, what is that? We all will say something different. I mean, and as second language learners, we'll see a bottle on a table, and we'll say, oh, the bottle's on the table. And then a speaker might say, it's a liquid, because there's all those categories. There's a long item. Is it liquid? Is it heavy? Is it alive? I mean, there's certain categories, and so like just sitting it on the table is going to be different than if it's a pencil, it's going to be different. And so then if it's on the floor, it's going to be different. And so we've got all these categories. And so your mind starts looking at things as situational. So every time you see something, we can all discuss this, and we can be like, well, what is this? And then a speaker will come by and say, oh, it's, they'll say it's a table on the stage, and they'll see something totally different than what we see it. And so that's the cool thing, is as you learn these words, there's meaning behind it. We had a speaker talk about like lips, and the word for that, she said actually means like the skin on your like mouth and lips, like it's the skin part, and that's how she saw it. Yeah, and that's how she was taught. And so it just blew my mind, and I love those, learning those, why they call it something. And so yeah, if you get a chance to talk to a speaker, just learning how the words came to be, it's really cool. So yes.
Is it a pretty rigid language, or does it depend on the speaker, what they learn, where they come from,
Mm-hmm.
and so on? Or is there modifications that can be done along the way?
It's interesting because around in this program we have a lot of people from Greasy, their community, and so they have a different accent or dialect, slightly different. And like my dad's got it slightly different because he's from Money Bean Hollow, Shady Grove area. And so when I was learning, he would just say, I go league, I understand, but go ahead and learn what they're teaching you. And so he's like, they're your teachers, so learn it their way. But then they go and say, well, you can learn it, speak it the way he says it. And so it's almost like you're learning like 5 different variations of how to say one word. But it's also really powerful because, like I said, it's passed down from their family. And so the way I can't remember, galisk is pie, but I think some of the speakers say it galdisk, or they say it slightly different. And to me, I love that because that's their pronunciation. That comes from their community. And so we will get to the point where we will accidentally standardize because grammar, you can conjugate. And that's another thing we have to be careful about is conjugating words that speakers don't ever use, because it's like, well, I figured out how to say, we are all going to, the market to buy bread or something. And then the speaker might just say, well, we never use that pronunciation. Like, what is that? And it's like, well, I just used the grammar, and I use, if you use this, this, and this is the word. And it's not a word they use. So I don't want to accidentally create words that aren't in our language because we can. And so I think that's something we got to be careful about when we use grammar. Yes.
I just wanted to say thank you for bringing up so many
Oh.
personally am facing because I'm kind of isolated in this journey where I've determined, but it's overwhelming.
Yes.
And it's easy to get just quickly into it and then just be so overwhelmed and to stop. And I don't look Cherokee enough. And
Yeah.
how much can I learn because I'm not really that young? And so thanks.
No, and I saw you and I was like, that's my son. Your hair is beautiful. I love it. But if you have the heart and you go out and you try, you will learn other learners that look like you. And it's being Cherokee. Like I said, it's not about how we look. It's about how we carry ourselves and how we learn. And you just keep learning and keep going and know that you're not alone. Like we are all feeling that way. We all feel like we're not doing enough. We're not Cherokee enough. We're not learning it enough. And it's a huge task. Because like I said, when you get into the sitting words or setting down or I'm going to set it down, I'm setting it down, it's down, like all of those. And you don't have to learn all of those at once. You can just say, I set it down. Because a lot of times it happens so quick. So it's like, we don't need to know the no-jik words right now. It's something that we will need to learn eventually, but as learners, don't be hard on yourself if you don't pick up everything right away, because You're not meant to learn it. That's what I tell myself now. I was like, well, it's not my time to learn this word. I'll come back to it later. So, any other questions? All right, well, like I said, Galialik, Nagad.